Hello everybody and welcome back to Analog Vernacular. Today we're going to be doing something that I haven't done ever, which is a tier list. We're going to be doing a tier list on all of the characters in Fire Emblem Three Houses. So let me tell you how this is going to go. First off, this is going to be broken up into two different videos. The first one is going to be for kind of like those A, B, and C tier picks. And then we're going to be doing a separate video where we're going to go into my most disliked characters and my most liked characters, which are my D ranks and my S ranks. I think we all know that there are a lot of characters in this game, so we're not going to be able to go into a lot of detail on a bunch of them, but I'm going to do my best to kind of like give my reasons why people land where they land. So for this first video with A, B, and C tiers, I'm actually going to be presenting them randomly. In other words, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a random number generator in order to scramble these, and we're just going to present them based on that random list. And you can see that I kind of already have a layout here for where everybody's at. I already have these all figured out, and we're just going to go down the list. The first thing that I wanted to cover is one character that I'm not really going to rank, and that's because this is the one playable character that I never used, not even once, and that's Anna. So Anna is just not going to be ranked. So technically she's kind of at the bottom here, but we're just not going to rank her. And I think that that's fitting because, Intelligent Systems didn't care about her, so why should we? Kind of harsh, I know, but that's kind of how I feel. They kind of just put Anna out there to dry, so that's exactly what we're going to do too. So, for our first random number, we're going to go with 36, which is Alois in a C rank position. So, he's a C rank just because, well, he's not that interesting of a character to me. He's got some real bad jokes, which doesn't always land well with me, and I just don't find his character to be that interesting. So, he ends up kind of in the C rank as one of the characters that I don't care that much for whatever reason. Next up, we've got our first A rank at number 17, which is Dorothea. I kind of adore Dorothea in a lot of ways. She does manage to hit the bottom of my A rank, but that's just simply because the quality of a lot of these characters are just so damn high. I, like most people, like an underdog story, and just the fact that she comes from this life of squalor and the fact that she's made it this far, like, that's always just a really, really good and interesting story, and I feel like they did that development pretty well in this game. And very close to the middle of the pack, we have Linhardt at number 20 in our first B rank position. Linhardt, our favorite sleepy boy. He's a good and caring friend, and he's incredibly, incredibly smart. And I just really like his personality. He's very, very tired all the time, yes, but he's also very funny. There are times where I'm not sure he even knows that he's as clever as he is. This next one is one I want to get into a little bit. It's Sothis, number 19 in a B rank. And Sothis had the potential to go a lot higher. I actually really like the character of Sothis. There's just one major problem that I have, and that's that basically she's only in the first half of the game. And that's kind of an issue for me. I really wanted more in the second half of the game with Sothis. I understand the story reasons, the fusion of Byleth and Sothis themselves, but that did not necessarily mean that it had to remain that way or that Sothis couldn't return in some way. And I really found myself missing Sothis in the second half of the game every time we got there. I almost thought that in the Golden Deer route or in the church route that maybe those routes would have Sothis return in some kind of meaningful way. That didn't happen, and honestly, that's okay. But that's the reason why Sothis ends up in this position in the B rank. Next up is Sothis at number 14. He is also a rank A, and he's the highest so far. Honestly, I love Sothis' character. He is one of those things where basically you don't exactly know how to take him at the beginning of the game. You almost think that he's a bad guy. I can't be the only one who thought that, oh, this guy is going to turn out to be a bad guy by the end of the game. He was very standoffish to us at the beginning, and then you slowly peel back his layers and you see how much of a sweetheart of a human being he is, as well as his relationship with Flayn and his relationship with Rhea. And the developers really cleverly sort of unwound the mysteries of Sothis and Flayn. And it was just a really rewarding experience learning more about those two characters. Flayn will come up here in a bit, but their story is very much intertwined, and the reasons why I love them are very much intertwined. Manuela ends up in a C rank at number 35. She's definitely a better character than Aloise in my book. Overall, the most fun thing about her is just the fact that she's kind of a mess and kind of a drunk, and I love her for it. But she's not a useful character, really, for me. I never used her in any of my routes. And yeah, so she just ends up kind of in this bottom area in the C rank. Sylvain ranks number 21 in a B rank. He's a resident womanizer. That type of character doesn't always sit well with me, but in this case, I feel like they did him all right. And he had enough character development where, his shortcomings aren't the only thing about him, and he does improve himself, and he does show himself to be more kind-hearted than maybe you initially would notice. You can't have interesting character development unless you have flaws. So flaws in characters aren't necessarily a problem unless there's nothing that's done with them. In this case, I feel like they did enough with Sylvain's character to keep me interested. And speaking of flawed characters, number 30 is Rhea. And Rhea is a fascinating character. Sometimes a villain, sometimes a hero, and it's very, very interesting. Frankly, she's an ancient being who has gone through a horrible, horrible tragedy. This tragedy has left a being that lives forever who somewhat has a busted psyche, has the potential for great evil. But the fact remains that throughout this game, we're proven time and time again that Rhea has ultimately kind of led a very, very good and peaceful life in the land of Fodlan. She has treated the people well. She, for all intents and purposes, is a lot more hands-off than she could have been. Maybe not always the case. We definitely do get hints that the church definitely put their hands into a lot of different pots to try and basically quell certain technologies in order to keep technology from expanding to a certain point. And basically all of her motivations, I can understand where she's coming from. Even when she's being villainous, I understand why she's being villainous. And I think that that's a major, major difference between her and another character that we're going to talk about in a bit, is that her motivations seem very, very clear to me, even when she does very, very shady things. And so I tend to give her a benefit of the doubt, where some other villainous characters I don't do that for. And it's simply because they definitely fleshed out the reasons why she is so broken. And it really is tragic. And I love her character for that. So while she's the end of the B rank, I still really, really like Rhea. Now for something less fascinating and incredibly bland. That's male Byleth. He sits at number 37 in the C rank. He ranks very, very low for me. This is basically the point in the list where if it's below this point, this is a character that I actively don't like for specific reasons. So anyone below this, I don't really like that much. And male Byleth ranks lower than female Byleth, simply because, we all know that he's more blank-faced and less expressive even than female Byleth is. And these blank characters that JRPGs seem to love so much are something that I have been dying to get rid of in video games. I really am not a self-insert. I do not play that way, and I understand some people like it, and so I don't want to take that away from them, but for me, I'm not a self-insert. I play video games to experience something else, something besides myself. I experience my own self every single day. I don't need to play a character who I basically see as myself. I want to play a character who thinks and acts differently than I do. And so I tend to enjoy characters who are their own person. And that's why male Byleth in particular falls so low for me. Catherine may not be the highest ranking church member on my list. Obviously Sothis already there, and there's a couple more up there that are pretty high up. But you have to admit that Catherine is a total badass. And her freaking weapon is so damn cool. Anybody who's been around the channel long enough knows that I like strong, independent women, and Catherine is definitely one of those. The thing that kind of holds her back is her obsession with Rhea and Rhea alone, and I feel like that just kind of pulls her down a little bit. She ends up feeling a little bit one note, and that's the only issue really that I have, honestly. Catherine's pretty damn sweet, and honestly, I gotta marry that girl one of my playthroughs, I swear. Our first DLC character, and ranking pretty high, is Yuri at number 13. He's got an A rank, and I really like him. I like all of the DLC characters quite a bit. He doesn't have the best ending arc, I will admit, when you get through the story. His betrayal feels a little bit trite, but other than that, his actual characterization in his supports are really, really good. And who doesn't like a good rogue character? Everybody likes a good rogue. Han Solo is popular for a reason, and he kind of fits that mold. I hear a lot of people say that he's Claude Light, and I kind of get that. I really do. Claude, as you can imagine, will probably rank a little bit higher than Yuri as I say that. But Yuri is his own character. He is very interesting, and I don't know, I just really like his Robin Hood mentality. It's kind of fun. Bernadetta is obviously a fan favorite. For me, she sits at number 16, which is probably lower than a lot of people would put her. She still ranks in the A rank, and she definitely deserves to be there. She's a fun character. I've always liked shy, awkward, weird characters, and she definitely fits that mold. I think that the reason that she doesn't make it higher on my list is just the fact that sometimes it gets to be a little bit much. Almost all of her supports have her screaming and throwing a fit in some way, and I feel like sometimes it's just a bit much. It's only occasionally that it goes to a point that, is too much for me, but it does happen, and it happened often enough that she ended up going a little bit lower on my list than I initially expected, actually. I thought she was going to be probably one of my favorite characters before the game came out, and that didn't end up being the case. She still manages to make it really, really high, and I love her post-time skip design so much. Oh, so good. So good. But yeah, that's where she lands for me. So after what I said about male Byleth, I think a lot of people are going to be surprised that female Byleth is number 9, basically the top of my A tier. And yeah, I totally get where you're coming from if you're a little bit confused, but it's kind of complicated. So like I said, I don't like self-insert characters. So you would think that female Byleth would end up being lower than that, closer to male Byleth. One thing is that she is way more expressive than male Byleth. I think a lot of people have pointed that out, that even in the cutscenes that are animated, female Byleth tends to, actually be more engaged in the actual scene that they are in. But that's not really what it's about for me, because that's really not that great of an argument for female Byleth to be that high. What it comes down to is the fact that basically I grew this channel to where it is now because of this game. And one of the reasons why I feel like I was able to grow within a space that was already had so many creators in is because, 1, I was playing as female Byleth, and 2, because I was playing a house that a lot of other channels on YouTube weren't playing, which is Blue Lions. I remember getting a lot of viewers who found my channel and watched my playthrough simply because there wasn't that many other people that were out there playing as female Byleth. So I think that I don't know, I have just this really nice affinity to female Byleth, and that alone is the reason why female Byleth ends up being so high up there. Okay, maybe there's one other reason. Female Byleth is also attractive. That probably has something to do with it too. Constance, or as I like to call her, Better Ferdinand. So number 29 in B rank is Constance, and I like Constance quite a bit, actually. So yeah, she has been likened to Ferdinand a lot, but frankly, I think that she's way more interesting. First off, she's got plenty of quirks, which some people like, some people don't. I happen to like her little quirk. When she's indoors, she's basically her normal self. When she's outdoors, all of a sudden she becomes like this sad, depressed, sort of like self-deprecating mess. I think it's fun, and I really, really like it. I also really love her VA. Her voice actor is fantastic. And on top of that, she's also just a really good unit. I'm just imagining her as a Dark Flyer right now, critting with Fimbulvetter, and it's so good. She's just a good unit, and she's a fun character. I like her. What can I say? What I'm about to say is probably going to sound harsh, but keep in mind that he did make it in 34, and that means he is above the threshold of my actively disliking the character. Lorenz, I was ensured in my first playthrough that when I got to Golden Deer, that Lorenz would become a lot more likable. Because I really didn't care for what I saw of him in my first playthrough in Blue Lions, which wasn't much, to be fair. But really, his improvements were pretty minor. He's a very unlikable person. He is terrible to the women around him, and frankly, he doesn't do that much to improve. He does get better, and if I hadn't have played Golden Deer, he would have ended up in a D rank for sure. He would have ended up in a D rank in the area where I really don't care for the characters at all. So it is saying something that he did manage to get into the C ranks and get above some of these other characters that we've already seen, but honestly, Lorenz just is not a very top tier character, so he ends up a little bit lower on my list. But let's get back up to that A rank and talk about Happy now at number 15. Happy is another one of those DLC characters that I really like. All the personalities are really unique in the DLC, and Happy just kind of has this lovely nonchalantness to her. And I don't know what it is about that character, or that character trope that just really gets me, but it gets me. I think that I relate to it on some level. I think that maybe like I feel that energy on a daily basis, that sort of just like half closed lidded energy of just like, oh man, you know what, this is too much for me to handle. Let's just be chill today and like not do anything wild, huh? How about that? I don't know. I really like Happy, and I was really sad that in Golden Deer that she didn't end up being on main party, and it makes me really excited to do my clean Blue Lions run that will happen eventually, probably not anytime soon, but I'm still planning on doing it. And Happy is definitely going to be on the team because she has a bunch of supports that I really want to see with Blue Lions, including Dimitri, so I cannot wait to see more from her character, honestly, so she's great from everything I've seen. Raphael is a character that's impossible not to like, at least a little bit. He makes a B rank at number 24, so he's not like top tier. And the only reason for that is that his character's somewhat one note. He's all about them gains, all about them eats, and he's just a good person who loves his sister. So I love all that about him, and there's really nothing to complain about. He's a really good unit when you fight with him, and he's a really fun character in all of his supports. Frankly, I like to see supports that have like some level of conflict or sort of interpersonal issues, which we get a lot in Blue Lions. But Golden Deer are a fun group of people, and they have really fun supports. And who can complain about that? Nobody. Ignatz's only crime to get so low and as a 33 in the C rank is that, well, alright, 2 crimes. His hair, even post time skip, and he's just a little bit bland. He is also a sweetheart like Raphael is, and I really do like Raphael and Ignatz's friendship, and their paralogue really fleshes that out really well. But overall, he's just a little bit bland, so he ends up fairly low on the list. That's just the way it is sometimes, but I still like Ignatz. He's a good guy. Oh, Annette, sweet Annie. I love Annie so much. She is easily the sweetest, most innocent, lovely character in the entire game, I swear to God. Out of all the ladies, she is the most like innocent, pure-hearted little thing, and I love her. Her little singing things in her supports, like she's always so kind to everybody. Her and Ashe's support is one of the most adorable things I've ever seen in my life. And I don't know, everything about her character I love. I think her hair is really fucking goofy pre-time skip. And then her post-time skip design is flawless. And frankly, like, I think that, like, spoiler alert, when I do my next Blue Lions run, when I do my clean maddening run for that, I think I'm probably going to end up as supporting with Annie just because I want to see it and I love her so much and she's such a sweet character. I can't express how much I love her supports too. I think this is another fan favorite that people are going to expect to be higher on this list than it is on mine. I think that most people would put Lysithea a lot higher. As a unit, absolutely, she's S tier, right? As a character, honestly, she's great. And I think that, like, I don't know, it's really tough for me. I think it's mostly the archetype. Tsundere archetypes are not something that I dislike necessarily, but throw in the fact that she's a very, very young child on top of it, and for whatever reason, that annoys me even more. I actually do like a lot of tsundere characters, but the fact that she's just like this young child, and she's so mean to everybody, it's not my favorite. And so that's why she ends up in a B rank, whereas I think that most people would put her in an S and an A rank. And honestly, for a lot of reasons, she would deserve to be pretty high on a lot of lists. She has a really, really interesting character who has dealt with a lot, right? And she is dealing with a lot. The fact that she's basically got a shortened life, she doesn't know how long she's going to live, is inherently interesting. The thing is that I feel like it takes too long for us to get to the point where we understand that, and I feel like we could have explored it more had we known about it earlier. So I understand why we don't get that. They kind of like play it out so that, you have to kind of like search it out, and it like creates this air of mystery. But that air of mystery just made me not like her when she was being cruel. And she is cruel to a lot of people. And obviously, by the time you get to the A rank with anybody, that does improve. And she does like get better. But I don't know. I feel like that's what's holding her back on my list. But let's be honest. She is a top tier character. She can destroy things. She's what you call a glass cannon. She can nuke things like no other. Her ability to fight the Death Knight because of dark spikes, very, very damn useful. And she does have an interesting character, which is something that I value highly. That's why, she still does manage to get a B rank on my list. But because of the things that I've already outlined, she doesn't end up getting any higher. One of my favorite things in this game is the interpersonal dynamics of some of the characters. It's the reason why I like Blue Lions so much. And that's why Ingrid makes it to this point on this list at number 28. For one, look at that design, her post-time skip design, top tier waifu material. Unfortunately, her character doesn't support that top tier waifu material. And really, the reasons for it are good ones. Because I value characters and character development so much, I really, really enjoy Ingrid's character. She has a lot of flaws, and she's essentially kind of racist when it comes down to it. The Dusker people, Deidu's people, she has a very, very big grudge against. And she has to work through that. And that interpersonal dynamic of them being on the same team is one of the things that fascinated me so much about this game. And I was actually surprised to see when I played other routes that the Blue Lions is the one that utilizes this sort of like almost, there are a lot of issues in that team, right? The relationships between the characters in the Blue Lions are strained in a lot of cases. And I thought that was absolutely fascinating, and I loved it. It's one of the things that drew me into the game so much. So when I found out that a lot of the other houses didn't have as much of that interpersonal sort of conflict happening, I was actually a little bit disappointed in that. Because I found it so fascinating that they went that route, especially since so many of the other games, the supports are often so lighthearted. The 3DS games in particular, they're very, very lighthearted, very anime trope-based, and not to say that doesn't exist in this game, it obviously does in a lot of cases, but Blue Lions had a lot less of that, and that being my first experience, I really, really loved that. And so Ingrid is a character that I really, really enjoyed because of some of those interpersonal conflicts that were occurring, especially between her and Deidu. She really had to grow. Some people see Ingrid as a wet blanket. I tend to see her as a very, very interesting and conflicted character who needs a lot of growth and probably still needs to grow some more even past what we initially saw. I don't know, I just really liked it. I did. And here we have Balthus, another DLC character at number 26 in the B rank. I really like his relationship with Hilda. I think that is probably the thing that stuck out to me the most as the most interesting part of his character arcs, and the thing that I just kept coming back for is getting more of that. And I love the nicknames between the DLC characters. Like, what was it, Balti? I think it was Balti. Was the nickname. Happy had a nickname for everybody. Another thing that I love about Happy, let's retroactively get that in there, is that all the nicknames she gave to people are very endearing. Balti. But Balthus and Hilda, yeah, I really ship that. I ship it so hard. And I don't know, I feel like those two complement each other so well. I think that alone is what's getting him up on the list. Like, he's just a fun character. He's very much like a Raphael in terms of like fighting style, and so he like just fits that role. He's a brawler. He should be a brawler. His weapon that he gets is really cool. And but really, it's the Hilda stuff. Hilda and Balthus, that support is really what sells him to me, 100%. The question on everybody's mind: will a dad ever survive a Fire Emblem game? The world is still waiting to find out because Jeralt's super dead. It's a played out trope. I don't like it. I would have loved to have had Jeralt be more of a part of the game. Like, come on, Intelligent Systems. There are other ways to create tension and to, you know, make us hate the bad guys. Let's stop the trope. Can we please just stop the trope? I really like Jeralt's character. That voice actor is always good in everything that he does, and I wanted to see more of him. And honestly, I felt like there could have been some really, really fun lore things that could have been added to the story if Jeralt had stuck into it. He is like he has a history with Rhea. I want to know more about that. I want to know more about our mother besides what we got in the DLC. I want to know about their relationship. Like, there's so many things that they could have done that would have been so interesting. But nope, he's dead. So he ends up in the C rank mostly because of that. I really like him as a character, but he's dead, so what more is there to it? Come on, IS. Let's you know, let's try a little harder next time. So Hubert made it to the top of my C rank list at number 31. I actually do like Hubert as a character. He's obviously above that threshold of characters that I actively dislike, and he has a lot of redeeming qualities. The dude is dark as hell, which I can always respect, and he's done some shady shit for what he believes in, and I like a flawed character like that. He will do just about anything great, including murdering people in cold blood, poisoning them, etc., etc. He and his family have a history. He basically betrayed his family in order to follow Edelgard because that's what he believed in. And honestly, I have a lot of respect for that. He was honestly very close to being bumped up to a B rank. But frankly, I think there were just too many issues that I had with Red Eagles and whatnot that I ended up, you know, keeping him down here at the top of my C rank. There is no more fitting place for Mercedes at number 11 than next to her best friend, Annie. So that's right where she's at, and honestly, she deserves the spot. If Annie is the most innocent and sweet character, Mercedes is the most nurturing and innocent character. She's been through quite a bit herself, and she's led a very, very tough life, and I really do like her interactions with Yuri/Emil. And I find that really, really fascinating. But not only that, but she's just so kind to everybody, and she's always helping everybody out. And the voice actress who performs her character so well, because you really do come to love Mercedes. The one thing that, like, oh man, the one disappointment, like seriously, so much is so perfect about Mercedes, but the one thing is, why? Her beautiful locks of hair. Why in post-time skip does she put on that weird-looking fucking hat? Why? IS. Who did this to her? Who made the decision? Can we take it back, please? In spot number 23 with a B rank is Ashe. When it comes to Blue Lions, one of the other things that I haven't really mentioned yet is how integrated into the first half of the story a lot of their narratives are. Ashe is one of those people. His story with Leonardo, his connection to Leonardo as basically an adoptive father, is really, really interesting and really adds a lot to the main story in the beginning of the game. There's also the connection of Sylvain to his brother. There's also Emil, who is related to Mercedes, which comes into play both in the pre-time skip and post-time skip to some degree. There's just a lot of interactions of the characters with the story. Dimitri's story being so intertwined with Dusker and this tragedy that happened. Like, there's a lot of things that are a part of the main story in this first half of the game that ties directly to our characters. And I really, really like that. So with Ashe in particular, I really like that about his character, and he was also my best bow unit. He was a crit god by the end of the game. It was amazing watching him destroy things at the end of my Blue Lions run. So for those reasons, for his integration into the main story for the first half of the game, as well as that just his utility. By the end of the game, he was so unbelievably strong, and I loved him for it. He's also just a really, really sweet character. Yeah. Also, Lock Touch. Holy shit, Lock Touch, so good. Hilda is a mood, and a mood that I find myself in often enough that I can relate to her. So, yeah, she's lazy, and we love her for it. And I don't know, I like her character. And for some of the same reasons that we talked about in Balthus's thing, part of the reason why I love her so much is her supports with Balthus. And like her supports with Claude as well are really nice. But one of the things that really stands out to me is in was it Blue Lions? Oh, I can't remember. No, it might be in Crimson Flower. Whichever one is the one where you end up having to kill Claude in, I'm blanking on the name of the city right now, but she's defending, and oh man, it's an unbelievably emotional moment while she tries to protect Claude. And she's doing everything she can, and Claude fully expected that if she actually ended up in danger, that she would leave. And he asked her to do that. And this is something that you would expect, knowing Hilda's character, as being something that she would be okay doing, is like, all right, you know what, this is too much work, I'm just gonna leave. But in that moment, it really shows a lot about her character that, like, she stayed there, and she was willing to die for Claude. And I don't know, that's just a really powerful moment that stood out to me, and she definitely earns her place in B rank just for that moment alone. In this game, this is my tsundere of choice. I really like Shamir. When it comes to the members of the church, she's one of them that really doesn't believe in the church that much. She's kind of just here because she found a job, right? And I really, really like that interaction that she has with the other church members, and her rivalry with Catherine is also really fun support. So this girl's the whole package. She is strong, she's independent, she doesn't rely too much on the church, she's just there for the job. Like, these are all things that, like, I find attractive in her. As somebody who's not religious myself, I really like kind of how she approaches the church in this game, and it's really interesting. So, I don't know, I just really like her character. I need to marry her and support her in one of these playthroughs, but yeah, I've said that about more than one character already on this list. There's just too many waifus, man. Too many waifus. Love Shamir. She's my goth girlfriend. And the last ranking that we're going to be doing together today is going to be Caspar at number 27 in a B rank. Caspar is also a huge part of getting Mercedes and Emil to kind of come together in the Blue Lions route. And that is one of the reasons why I like him so much. In my Blue Lions route, I didn't manage to actually recruit him. I tried my damnedest, but it was right when the game had come out, and I didn't realize that he was not recruitable in the method that was widely being circulated at the time of getting them to their B support. You can't get Caspar to his B support until post-time skip. So I didn't realize that, and I tried desperately to recruit him, not even knowing how important he would be to Mercedes Paralog later on, and that sort of thing. So I was disappointed in my first playthrough that I didn't get to do that myself, but I did look it up later and saw his interactions with that. But not only that, but he's just also a very, very cool dude. So like he deserves sort of that B tier, just because he's such a nice dude in all of his supports, and he's really, really interesting. He has a lot of like really, really kind supports with a lot of the other characters in the Red Eagles, and I respect him for it. So goes a long way. And we're going to save that last spot on the C rank for the start of our next video. And I have a good reason for doing that. You'll understand once we get into that next video, but right here we've kind of got the meat of the middle, right? And in the next one, we'll talk about that last C rank, and then we'll talk about our D rank, which is the characters that we actively dislike. Basically, remember, Mel, Byleth onward are characters that I actively dislike for certain reasons. And we'll go into that first, and then we'll go and rank down to our number 1 spot in the S ranks. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and you won't want to miss it. So make sure that you like and subscribe if you haven't already, so that you don't miss when that next video comes out. Have a good one, everybody.